Greetings, everybody. I'm coming on today to talk about a pretty deep subject. That's why I'm saging. I just want to bring a little bit of healing medicine and clearing before I go into the topic that I was guided to go into. And so I'm just going to put this out now. Just want to do a little clearing for everybody. I'm going to go into a subject that's a little bit difficult to talk about, and I've actually had it come up into my field quite a lot in the last few weeks, and I've hesitated to do the video on it because it's a really, it's deep, and I don't want in any way for anybody to feel, like I'm, bringing fear into the equation, because it's not a fearful thing so much as it's a conscientious thing. When we become conscientious with things that we need to think about and become mindful of, then we no longer need to be in the fear. We need to be in the awareness of. That doesn't mean that there aren't things in our world that could be considered, scary or intimidating or something like that. It just means that we have things that we need to become aware of so that we know how to move around that energetically. So basically, in the last few weeks, I've had a lot of conversations with my guides and with Source in relation to, what's going on with our ascension process, what's going on with our reality in terms of the fallen angels, and how these other nefarious entities like draconians and archons and other types of entities that are non-benevolent are trying to infiltrate our ascension journey and really hack our timelines to prevent the Great Awakening and to really create a lot of chaos and issue for all of the souls who are going through the ascension journey. And in particular with myself, I think I wrote about it a couple of weeks ago that I actually had a person come who had a dark entity attached to them, and they came into a session, and the energy that was attached to them was trying to siphon and harness information about the krystic path of ascension. And it was a really surreal thing for me because I could see the soul that was within that person that was also, wanting to find their way through. And then I also saw this nefarious being there that was wanting to use them as a host to harvest this information. And it's really been a tricky situation, because for those of you that have ever followed Christ's teachings or many other spiritual leaders' teachings, a lot of times they speak cryptically or in parables, because some of the information spiritually is so incredibly sacred and important that if it gets in the wrong hands, then it can cause a lot of problems. And that's why our world is in the condition that it's in. All of these wars in our world really, have been over God or who's right or who's wrong. And, it's really, at the end of the day, it all comes down to an attempt to harvest the soul energy of the beings, as well as to really, at the core of it is also really it's a war against God, if you will. And so, all of the history of humanity, there have been these beings, these fallen angels, who many of them were actually very, very much trying to go in the path of ascension and just didn't make it. There's maybe something that they just couldn't grow through or evolve through or accept, and so they became fallen angels. And a lot of other entities, they really just chose that they didn't want that path, but they want the power that's there. They want the glory of God. They want the throne of God. They basically want to overthrow the throne of God, if you will, and claim it for their own. And so this video is going to kind of go into a few different areas in relation to that. I was also again inspired because somebody on one of my groups asked me, they made a comment about the fact that they didn't like it when people don't just directly give them the answer that they're looking for or that kind of a thing. And so again, it kind of brought me back to this awareness, to understanding that, we're trying to help everybody. We're trying to help everybody, but it really is up to each individual soul how they're going to interpret and translate information, because a lot of information in the higher dimensions, it really is a lot for some humans to take in. And so, there's a lot of sacredness there that we are working around. We are trying to help humanity. We're trying to share the information. We're trying to make sure that it's not getting distorted and manipulated in the wrong hands, which it very much is. If you guys are in the twin flame groups, you're probably seeing a lot of that there's a lot of people just talking about that information. They really don't have the codes. And so it's creating a lot of more problems, which is what we are, those that are activated, that are in the 144,000 that are here as way showers, are really trying to help clear that distortion and all of those distortions. And yet then there's this other, all these other layers of things that are happening that are creating more distortions. And so we're really trying to avoid that. Those distortions and those false truths that are being spread around are creating further harm to the collective of humanity. And so again, a lot of information spiritually in relation to the ascension path and in relation to other dimensional awarenesses is both, one, very difficult to try to translate in the third dimensional reality to third dimensional beings. It's very, the psyche has to be ready for it. The soul has to be ready for it. And so not everything can just be handed easily to you on a silver platter. Unfortunately, it just really doesn't work that way. And quite honestly, a lot of your own spiritual journey is about you learning how to decode information, because even if somebody says it to you and hands it to you on a silver platter, if you're not exactly ready for that, then you're still going to misinterpret it anyways. So, there's that layer there. But mostly what I've been talking to my guides about, and I'm just kind of getting my notes here again. I wrote a couple quick notes, most of it's retained here, but is basically not just an attack on the timeline for ascension, but when I say attack, I want to soften that word a little bit. I don't want people to feel like, we're being attacked. In some ways, there's truth there. In other ways, we are empowered beings and we have the ability to overcome anything. So it really, even if we are being attacked, we have the power to retrieve our own spirit, our own energy, and to create our own reality within the midst of that. Those attacks are kind of useless when we become developed in our spiritual powers. Not to say that there's not truth there and reality there. So basically, again, for several weeks, many weeks now, I've been getting downloads from the spirit in relation to timeline hacking, and how, of course, it's attempts from these, non-benevolent beings to prevent us from our own ascension and our connecting with source. This really also isn't necessarily the first time that we've had timeline hacks or hacks in our ascension path. We've really always been. And so again, we have a lot of things going on, attempts to infiltrate our bodies with chemicals and devices and things that are altering our genes and altering our DNA and altering, therefore, our consciousness. And our consciousness, again, our third eye, is our connection to our higher selves and to God. So it's an attack really on your connection to God and your ability to become God realized within yourself. And also, of course, everything that's going on with Russia and, Ukraine right now and all of that is also connected to this. It's connected to, everything that has been pre-written that is unfolding in our world now to you know, create a lot of chaos, if you will, madness in the midst of our ascension path. And so you could look at it as a lot of attacks and feel like you're under attack, or you could look at it as polishing lessons. That's the way that I like to see it, is it's polishing lessons. It's really making me better and stronger and wiser and sharper in every moment that I go by in my life. And so, although I feel, and I do see, you know, the many attempts here for trickery and sorcery and other things, I also see that those that are in their mastery levels can overcome it quite fairly easily, because, you know, it's just trickery is what it is. When we become empowered, it really has no power over us. But I want to bring this information to the awareness of the collective, because no matter where you're at in your journey, you're obviously feeling a lot of what's going on. And, you know, part of the attack now, or the trickery or sorcery, or things that are going to start unfolding even more so in the future, in addition to these types of attacks that are going on in the Ukraine and that are about to go on in Taiwan, and there are several other countries. Syria's been, you know, part of it too, and there's so many other countries right now that are kind of going to start going through this warring situation. And I don't want that to cause fear for anybody, because again, you have to remember that everything is divinely written. Your role in this play is divinely written, and, you know, things can be altered. Timelines can be altered too, even through us. So I've talked about that in other videos as well, that we're really the writers of the codes. We are really able to rewrite timelines based on our own energy. So this video is designed to help you understand some of the nefarious attempts to attack the timelines and some of the things that they're doing to help you become aware of your own energy, to help you become aware of, you know, energies that are happening or that are influencing or infiltrating the light warriors and the seers and the way showers, and also to assist us in remembering how to rewrite the timelines even for ourselves and jump the timelines. So I've talked about in other videos about having visions of this particular timeline. I foresaw COVID. I foresaw the whole scenario there unfolding. I saw in the fourth dimension entities that were involved that were not human. And I also foresaw, you know, sort of apocalyptic wars with Russia, China, Korea, and the USA. And here we are at this timeline now. I had that vision in 2011, and here we are now, you know, seeing some of these things unfold. But again, we can rewrite that timeline too. So they're trying to hack our ascension timeline to prevent us from ascending, because part of what they're doing is they're trying to hack the path to ascension. That's really what's happening. So all of this other chaos and stuff that's going on, what's really happening is that the fallen angels are trying to hack the pathway to God, if you will. And, you know, they're really forbidden from that, but they are trying to hack into it, even through AI and, you know, artificial intelligence, hacking our minds, accessing our minds through nanoparticles and other types of devices and technologies to hack the human consciousness. So this is a big deal, guys. This is a really, really big deal. A lot of times people think, GMO this, whatever, we can't do anything about it. And, you know, there's a lot of that defeatist energy. I should do a whole nother video about that. But, you know, no, we can't afford to be defeated. And you're only defeated the moment that you accept that you're defeated. So why on earth would any of us want to do that at this time? For one. And for two, you know, I'm very strongly being guided that I, in particular, at least in my own work, need to be careful about who I work with. So a lot of times, it's good souls that are looking for guidance, and I'm happy to help there. But like I said before, I've had a couple of times where beings came through and really all they were trying to do was siphon the knowledge for non-benevolent reasons. And they weren't really seeking their own evolution. And they had entities attached to them, and those entities are feeding and fueling the fallen angels that are giving them codes that they haven't been granted through source. And so it's a delicate thing. It's not because we don't want to help souls, we definitely do, but it's because we have to be very careful about the intentions that are behind the soul that's coming through seeking guidance. Because again, if you know anything about the Bible or spiritual work or spiritual beliefs in any culture around the world, you're going to know that, there's always been this group or collective of non-benevolent beings that have always wanted to claim those codes, those holy codes. And the keepers of the codes, like myself and many others, are given direct guidance and direct information about who's who and what's what and how to protect that information, because it is sacred. And I mean sacred. So anyway, that's really what's been coming up in my field a lot. These beings are also trying to infiltrate our monetary systems and collapse that so that people will become desperate. And when you're desperate, you're going to do things that are not in alignment with your soul most times. So unless you're very, very strong and really worked hard on endurance training, I like to call it. But anyhow, so the point of this video again is basically to talk about timeline hacking and how what we're seeing right now in our world with the wars and everything else is really all attempts to prevent your soul from realigning with God, with source, with your true self and your true divine blueprint. It is designed to take you away from God. And everything that's happening is exactly for that. So if you are focused on your soul and realigning your soul with source, then that's really all that matters. Okay, just know that if that's your intention, you're okay. You're going to be okay. Just keep working through that. But understand that the things that are happening are an attempt for that. And then additionally, that there are these other dimensional entities that don't necessarily exist in the physical reality, but they can attach to hosts in physical bodies, and they can use those hosts for very nefarious reasons. And so in a lot of times, humans who are hosting a negative entity like that have no awareness that they are that they have an attachment of that sort. So a lot of times the soul that's there is maybe looking for help, or maybe they're, whatever, but they don't understand that there is an attachment to them that is seeking something too. And that can be very tricky when, when a spiritual person is trying to speak with the soul, because they're trying to speak to the soul, but that nefarious being is there. And that can create some difficulty in the capacity to translate information from a higher dimensional consciousness into the 3D world. It creates basically a barrier. So I hope that made sense for you guys. I would just say for the woman that mentioned wanting, why can't people just hand it to her directly? We're trying to. Why aren't you hearing what we're saying, for one thing? And for another thing, sometimes things can't be translated that way. They have, Christ spoke with a cloak. He spoke in parables for a reason. And that was so that those that truly have the right intentions can decode the information. And those that don't have the true intentions, they aren't going to, for lots of spiritual reasons. So, you know, you have to understand that as you're going about your spiritual journey, and your journey is unique to you. So every person that's a spiritual teacher that's trying to bring information through to you, you still have to do your end of the work, which is to, you know, make it make sense for you, decode, understand what the meaning is behind it. You have to keep an open heart and an open mind in order to do that, because, you know, the spiritual realities in other dimensions are very different than what's going on in the 3D world. And so we're trying our best to translate it for you, to help you understand. You know, if you're having difficulty understanding, try to step back from it and allow yourself to feel the energy of what the person's trying to say, as opposed to getting caught up in the mind. Because if you get up in the mind, you're going to have problems, you know. But essentially, you know, I'm getting tons of downloads on the fact that part of this AI, you know, transhumanism agenda also is to hack the human consciousness. And so although we're out here sharing information, and although we're out here trying to help humanity, we also need to be conscientious of the fact that there is a nefarious plan to try to hack our connection to source from beings that they have a connection to source in their core of their beings, but they're not trying to connect to source for the right reasons. And so they're disconnected. And it's kind of like you're seeing with these beings that are trying to make babies in artificial wombs. And there's a lot of spiritual problems that are going to come from that's trying to play God, and it's going to have bad circumstances, outcomes, consequences. And so again, our thoughts, our consciousness is everything. Our consciousness is our connection to God. And having beings that are seeking to hack into that to basically wipe out humanity and make machines that can have that consciousness is really part of the agenda. And it's not a good thing. So I don't want you to be living in fear, or, you know, feel like this is, you know, I gotta worry. Definitely don't do that. In fact, worrying puts you in a low vibration. So please don't worry, and please don't fear. If they want you to do that, don't do that. But do understand that, you know, your consciousness is highly sacred. And sharing it into the collective is also going to be, you know, for me, I have to be careful about it. I know what I've been guided to do. And so I share things openly when I do, and that's my gift. But I am definitely being guided to share things carefully, and to watch who is coming to me. I also had another show that I was on recently, and I definitely won't be going back on that show again, because I was shown that the man that runs it is also connected to these archonic beings, and they're in that low vibration. And the two female guests that they had on there also they were doing exactly what I'm talking about. They had attachments, and those attachments were seeking to present themselves to the world that they're in the light, and they're not. And they're presenting faulty information that is now affecting the collective in a harmful way. And they also were seeking information that they weren't privy to in the spirit world. So again, it's like the Akashic Records. Akashic Records they're accessible to all souls when the souls get their energy right. So it's really a spiritual thing. You have to go through a lot of spiritual evolution to get to that point where you are being granted access to the full Akashic records. And so, you can't really fake that, because it's not granted to you by another human. It's granted to you by the spiritual realms. And so, again, that's really how this stuff works. And when we give, information that is holy and sacred to people who really don't understand the sacredness of it, then they take it and they present it in a way that is tainted. And that's what we've seen happen in the world since the beginning of time, even in the fall of Atlantis, where, everything was sacred and holy, and it got completely destroyed. And Atlantis fell because of it. And so, in fact, that's going to be one of my next videos, is to talk about that, because we're kind of reliving that timeline also. So I think that I'm going to wrap up this video. I would just like to remind you guys, number one, please like, share, and subscribe. Share the videos, like them, comment on them. I'm really trying to get these messages out to the collective as much as possible to help humanity. So please do your part and help share them out. And also, if you're inclined or inspired and these videos help in any way, please consider making a donation. I am not monetized, so I do this all on my own time for free, and I could really use your support too. So I'll leave a link for my PayPal below, and feel free to help out there as well. It helps me to continue getting the equipment. As you guys notice, I'm starting to get a little better, but I'm still working on putting together equipment and getting things put together so I can make better videos for you guys. So we're in this together, and I would really appreciate your support too. Again, please share out the videos far and wide so that everybody can hear this information. It is meant for the collective when we are in this together, and we really do need to kind of work together here. And we also need to remember the sacredness of our own souls and of this information, because again, it really does have to do with beings that don't want us to connect to God, but those same beings want to try to claim the glory of God. And so I hope that this made sense for you guys. I'm going to watch it, and then if I like it, I'll share it. But if you guys are seeing it, it means that yay, it made the test. It passed the test. And please, again, like, share, subscribe, comment, and feel free to make a donation as well to assist me to continue making videos like this for you. Hopefully I'll get better at bringing in pictures. I'm trying to learn how to do that so that I can put together some good, video documentary style videos for you guys to help you understand some really deep rooted stuff here. Yeah, okay. If you guys need any sessions, or you're looking for private guidance one-on-one, feel free to reach out to me. You can email me, ellenred.com, and I'll see you on the next one. Namaste.